Since we're talking about food and how important it is to eat, whole food, farm to table, grow your own if at all possible, I wanted to take you to my vegetable and herb garden. So just to start off, you'll see my stepping stones, which remind me to be mindful of each step I take, as I mentioned earlier. But I also wanted to show you some of my herbs, and hopefully my rooster will let us do this. This is oregano. I love oregano. It is rich in fiber. It adds a lot of flavor, particularly when you use it with fish. I think we got a competition over there. And it's very aromatic. And I mostly have herbs on one side and then vegetables on the other. So I'm just going to take you through some of the vegetables that I grow and how important it is to really focus on the foods that we put in our mouth, the type, the quality. And we may not all be able to have a garden, but you can grow things in a pot, for example. I've given my patients plants of kale so they can just grow in a pot like as if it was a plant. There's all kinds of possibilities, but I think more than anything, the importance is your intention and to instill that in our patients. Onward. So here we have some more herbs. This is rue. This over here is chamomile. It's great for a tea. This is calamintha. Calamintha is not very common in the States, but it's very common here. It's aromatic, it makes a great tea. It's good for decreasing your fever, for example, but it's also really good as a calmative herb. So when your cortisol is high, it's a really good one to make, especially like at bedtime, to help you relax. There's very little literature that I could really find, but some actually point to it might increase GABA. That's a little iffy, not a lot of literature to support it, just so you know. And then this is thyme. There's many different varieties of thyme. This is the most common one that actually grows wild in different parts of the island. I love just picking it and then adding it to your salad. I also like doing like fingerling potatoes, waiting a little while for them to cool down because you're trying to increase the resistant starch, and then adding some extra virgin olive oil and then sprinkling this on top. Very aromatic as well. This is French, known here as French garlic. These are some of my lettuce, and that's a special type of kale that is almost like a cross between a kale and a chard. And then these over here are my broccoli, which I've actually already picked. And this is the lettuce that I'm currently picking. Lettuce is one thing, depending on what type, it grows very quickly, so you have to constantly be putting the seedlings in, so you pretty much have it most of the time. Over here I have some sweet potatoes. I'm not sure if you can see that. Over there is some lettuce, but I have some carrots that were from a previous crop rotation that are growing. And then in the far left over there is my coriander or my cilantro. Coriander is actually the seed herb, it's cilantro, and it's going to seed. And right here in front of me is rosemary. I also love rosemary. In addition to being aromatic, it's full of phytonutrients. Of course, it's a little bit firm, so if you're going to use it, I like chopping it up in small pieces and adding it again to almost anything. On top of soups, you can add it to your fingerling potatoes, as I mentioned earlier. I also love it in a salad dressing, for example. And I wanted just to show you this over here. It's maybe a little bit harder to see, but these over here are my beets. And I just love these. There are different stages of growth because that's just sort of what nature does. But some of them are actually pretty large. I'll pick one just so you can see. So here's one. It's actually a not very big one. I've had some that are 2 or 3 times its size, so this one could have stayed a little longer. However, because it is close to some of these other ones, there may be a limitation as to how much they grow. Now you can shred it and put it on a salad raw, or you can also cook it, put it on a salad, add it to almost anything. You can use the leaves as well, like in a soup, for example. And then over down in here, we have some more beets. Those are the orange beets. And next to it are some of my squash. That's butternut squash. And a variety that's very similar to butternut, but not exactly. It's sort of the butternut variety that's common here. And then a little bit further down, which actually looks like they're beets, they're not. Those are chard, and we have different types of chard. So I picked one beet, but it is a small one. This is a beauty, and I've been sort of waiting for it to grow because this is not the largest one that I've ever had, but a pretty large one. And it's mostly because it was spaced a little bit further aside from the others, and also in an area where the soil is pretty rich. Now, moving on, I wanted to show you some of the chard. There's many different varieties of chard, and this is one that has I call it the purple veins, or rather it's maroon, but chard is also, it's a green leafy vegetable. It's great cooked. Raw, not so much, there's a lot of oxalates, but I love just steaming it for a few minutes and then adding some extra virgin olive oil on top of it. Okay, over here we have some tomatoes. You can see these are some peppers. They're still very young. And this is the other type of chard that I was mentioning, where the stalk is white, and like the one I showed you earlier, where it's red. I love mixing it up because sometimes it's hard to get red and purple, which are going to have different types of phytonutrients. So I like doing both because it's a good way to get all your nutrients in. And then we have some onions here, almost ready to pick. This over here is fennel, and this is something very popular here, which is taro. We eat a lot of taro. There's two different types of taro. One is grown in water, so we're all in the area where it is pretty wet, which is mostly on the north side of the island. I'm on the south side. And this is fennel, which some people call it dill, but actually here it's fennel, but it's not the type of fennel that has a thick root. It is one that's very, very, very aromatic, and you can use it on salads. We have a very traditional soup where you just chop it up and put it into a cream-based soup. And the cream can be made from zucchini or potatoes or turnips. Okay, we're going to be going by our chickens and chicks. I just wanted to give you an idea of the other area. So I have two areas, and here we have some more of the fruit trees, and also some more carrots and lots of chard, as you can see, as well as some onions that are almost ready to be picked. And then all alongside the back you see the kale, some of it which is going to seed. And of course I couldn't forget to point out that I also have some grapes growing. These are mostly our table grapes, and it's a very common one that we have here. We have both white and red. So I just wanted to give you an idea of, to me, what it means to sort of grow your own vegetables and eat from the ground, because there's so much that we get from the soil, including all the microorganisms that help populate our gut. And of course, not everyone may be able to have as big as a garden as I'm fortunate enough to have, but it's all relative and it's all what you can. It's really about teaching our patients how important it is to be cognizant of what we're putting in our mouth and to have an idea where it comes from as much as possible.